What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for November 9th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Saturday edition of the podcast. A little chilly out there today. It's nice. I like it. Fall is here. Let's start with some quick housekeeping notes before we get into today's episode. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Let's outsmart the algorithm. Looking still into putting some other short stuff on there after the success of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame inductee spotlights. Speaking of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, the Heritage Collection is available online. The link is in the description. I had a few people reach out saying it was not working, so I updated it somehow in the copy and paste. It just was not transferring over, so it should be up now. If not, reach out and I can shoot it over to you. But just a cool project I've been working on and looking to continue to grow that. And like I've been saying, to tell the story of this memorabilia. Starting November 17th, we will kick off our second annual food and gift drive benefiting the Maddie and Dixon Community Cupboard in Ambler. Details of that will be forthcoming, but it is a two-pronged approach. We're going to do the first half, the gift card drive. I have everything set up for that, so stay tuned. And then we'll do our reverse advent calendar. I know a lot of people, I get my kids involved in this. They get a kick out of bringing the items up and putting them in the boxes and everything. So stay tuned for that. I have a list of the needs that they're going to need. So very excited to team up with them again. But that's going to happen starting November 17th. And then on November 17th, we will be doing our spotlight on what we're thankful for in Philly sports. Believe it or not, there are some things to be thankful for here in 2024. So we'll kick that off. All right, so had some time to process what went down on Thursday night. And again, just a great event. It's pretty cool just to see how everybody in the Philadelphia sports community comes together. You see guys like Phil Martelli, Ryan Howard, Chase, everybody coming together. John Middleton was there. Just a good, very exciting night, and just the St. Joe Hawk was there, the Philly Fanatic, just fun. But to me, the thing that I enjoy the most are the speeches of the inductees. So just kind of highlight some of the speeches because there's a lot of great things that were said. Merle kicked it off. He was inducting Stan, who wasn't able to make it in, but did want to be honored into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. And just the stories he had of him when they were in the broadcast booth about how he was so unfiltered and didn't really spoke his mind, and just his absolute disdain for the Cowboys was awesome. Joe DeCamera did mention the thing that I mentioned when we did this inductee spotlight on him, how his first memory of Stan, because I believe Joe is my age, or around the same age, but just listening to him on the radio, and you could just tell the genuine love that Merle Reese had for Stan. Then Paul Westhead came up, had so many great stories in basketball. He's coached so many different places at so many different levels, but the thing that stuck out to me the most about his speech was just you could tell just the love he had for Hank Gathers. He said he was his favorite player ever. And just he talked about the game that they went down to LSU against Shaquille O'Neal. And I think Shaq blocked Gathers' first 5 or 7 shots. And he was like, most people would have given up. Not Hank Gathers. He came back and scored like 40 points and just had himself a game. And I was always a huge Hank Gathers fan. And to hear the stories about that was just great. Joan Moore came up and she just talked about her experiences and throughout her gymnastics career, both as a performer and then after the fact, but just said, she was like, I was always a Philly girl. Even though I'm in Florida, I'm still a Philly girl at heart. I think the best speech of the night was George Benton's daughter-in-law. She gave a great speech kind of highlighting his career and just how much boxing meant to him. and unfortunately he was not able. He passed away, so wasn't there. But just talked about how much this honor would have meant to him, and to me, that's what's cool about the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Yeah, you have Ryan Howard, you have Chase Utley, but guys like George Benton who were major players in their sport, but you don't necessarily hear those stories because they don't play in the four major sports. But she gave an excellent, excellent speech. Loreline Jones was just phenomenal. The stuff that she's done is just great. And just the influence and impact she's had on so many people in Philly is just remarkable. She talked about, I might be the winningest coach in public league, and she's like, but I had great players. She was very humble and gave the credit to her players, which I loved. She was more impressed, and her thing was changing the lives of the people that she came in contact with. But she was very, very honored and humbled. She talked about how much it meant to her to be honored to be inducted. I talked yesterday. The introduction that Dan Baker did for Chase Utley gave me chills. It was just amazing. Jameer Nelson came up, and apparently quite a few people had asked him if he could suit up and play for the Sixers. He was like, no, I'm unable to play right now. I'm too old. But he gave a good speech just talking about his time at St. Joe's and how even though he didn't play for the Sixers, the spirit of Philadelphia never truly left him. He was great. I mean, he was that St. Joe's team back in the day. I was hardcore Temple. It was when Chaney was doing his thing, and it was the only non-Temple team I ever actively rooted for in the NCAA tournament. Andy Talley, he was more concerned with talking, which is a great foundation, his bone marrow foundation, but really just what he did for Villanova football is just remarkable, and the fact that it raised it from being nothing to being a national powerhouse in Division I AA, FBC or whatever it is now, or FBS. But if you can, go check out his Bone Marrow Foundation charity. He's doing great things, and it's really a great organization. Cheryl Reeve was great. She talked about her time playing at LaSalle, and Speedy Mars was in attendance. It was good to see him. But she said that he was the coach of the girls' team when she was there, and he became the coach of the men's team while she was on the team. And she just thought that was like the natural progression of things as a NCAA basketball coach. It wasn't until later she said that it was a demotion, and everybody laughed, and Speedy acknowledged it, which was pretty cool. Brendan Hansen talked about just when he told people when he started swimming nationally and even at the University of Texas that when people said that he was from Philly, everybody was like, oh, shit, because they knew he was going to outwork them. He was going to be more gritty than them. And to me, that I love that speech because it just showed really, as bad as of a reputation we get sometimes, it's just we're hard workers, and that's what we expect from our teams. And the fact that he's going around with all these swimmers nationally, and they're just like, man, this dude's going to work. And it really, he said, upped the games of everybody else and really made an impact on the U.S. national team. Ryan Howard was also introduced by Dan Baker. Got chills for that, but I really liked his message here. He was like, kind of acknowledged that it wasn't always the greatest relationship with the fans, but he was like, Philly is the city of brotherly love. You fight your brother, you hate your brother, but at the end of the day, you love your brother. And I think that, to me, I made sure I wrote that down because that is the essence of Philly sports and being a Philly fan. It's one of those things where if he said he didn't know what to expect coming from St. Louis, but that, to me, sums up Philly sports fans perfectly. Basically, we're going to love you. We're going to hate you. We expect this out of you. But at the end of the day, you're ours. And I think that was just a great way to do it. Angelo did come up at the end. He brought some guys from the Dirty 30. There were manufactured boos. Mine was real, though. I did not realize the Dirty 30 was going to be there. They threw pieces of paper that looked like snowballs at him. So it was kind of a manufactured thing. I didn't get that memo, so my booing was real. Like I said, it's you can't not what he did in Philly sports and talk radio. It's you can't argue that. Like I said, I just never got over the Donovan thing. But the one thing he did say that I think really tied in with the Ryan Howard quote, he said, listen, players, owners, all general managers, they come and go. The one constant is the fans, and don't ever change. He's like, that is what makes Philly, Philly. And then Joe DeCamara, when he did say, and I think this is how a lot of us feel, he mentioned that it's a different feeling being a Philadelphia sports fan. Yes, there's more than our fair share of heartaches and disappointments and things like that. However, he did say he wouldn't change or trade the 27 Yankees World Series championship for being a Philly fan, because it does. When the teams win here, it just means more. And I think that, to me, was the essence of the night. It just was a great time with all of these great people in Philly sports history. A fun night. The messages were awesome. And like I said, to me, that's what's important, is telling the story. Hearing Loreline Jones talk about why it was so important for her to fight the School District of Philadelphia and the Catholic League in order to get the girls the opportunity to play for the city championship. Hearing Brendan Hansen talk about how they knew he was going to work harder than them, and then he had to live up to that reputation then. And then just the stories of Stan Walters, who just his hatred of the Cowboys was real, stemming from him as a player. So these guys and girls are just like us, and it's great to hear that. So good time. Already looking forward to planning for next year's induction ceremony. I feel like there's going to be a lot of good things on the horizon with the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, so stay tuned for more on that. But especially with the Archives Project, I have some ideas. I'm looking forward, now that I've had a full year of seeing the whole process, being more involved and getting really taking it to the next level, because I do think the organization is great. So many great people, and to really have the support of the athletes. And it's really, there is no Sports Hall of Fame without the athletes. And to have the athletes want to come back and realize how big of an honor it is to be considered one of the greatest in Philadelphia, which has such a rich history of sports, is awesome. So I wanted to kind of recap the speeches. It's always my favorite, like I said, part of the night. It was awesome to set up the memorabilia display and see people go in and out and really just embrace what Philly sports has to offer. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Let's get into today's episode, though. We'll start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, are the Sixers cooked? 69% of you agree that yes, they're cooked. They lost again yesterday, 116-106. I will mention the poor Flyers were catching some strays from the question yesterday. I had a couple people reach out and say, hey, I'm more excited about the Flyers than I am the Sixers, and I don't think that's fair. I think the Flyers actually have a lot of young potential, where the Sixers, I don't know. Jarrett McCain did score 18 yesterday. Didn't do so hot shooting. This team cannot shoot. That's the biggest issue of why they're 1-7. Paul George only had 9 points, couldn't buy a bucket. But he did say he felt more like himself, which I guess is a good thing. They're back home tomorrow. I believe they play the Hornets before opening up the NBA League Cup or NBA Cup. I forget what the in-season tournament. Their first pool game is Tuesday night. Hopefully Joe makes his debut on Tuesday night. But man, Sixers, they just cannot shoot. I don't understand it. Like, I mean, I guess I do understand it, but I just, like I said, I may have overshot my prediction with the Sixers. Flyers are in Florida this evening to take on the Panthers. They're looking to continue to stay aggressive and get off to these good starts and play hard. Looking forward to, there's not much else on college football, but looking forward to watching that game tonight at 6. Be sure to check out my boys over the Clashing Conferences podcast. New football episode is out. The college sports episodes are also out with the new crew. They kind of did their introduction and gave you sort of a look at what is to come with that. That all is available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. And then go to Philly Goat. Why not do some shopping for some hoodies? That cooler bag makes a great gift. Hint, hint, if anybody wants to buy it for my birthday. But they got a ton of stuff over there. It is Dallas week, so they have you covered with the Dallas gear. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, speaking of the Eagles, it was an odd day yesterday, to say the least. Got the good news that AJ looks like he's not on the injury report. He's going to play. Devontae said he plans on playing. Looks like Dallas Goedert is planning on playing. Fred Johnson is trending toward playing. But then Nick Sirianni dropped a bomb accidentally, and he was asked about Jalen's missing practice for rest, or it was a very just benign question, and he said, well, he's dealing with the ankle, and started going, and then the reporter stopped him like, wait a minute, Jalen has an ankle injury? And then somebody from the Eagles PR staff was like, no, it was just, he was like, yeah, I got confused there for a second. So don't know if Jalen is hurt or not. He certainly didn't look like it on Sunday against Jacksonville, but that is something worth monitoring, and it's just kind of, I don't know if that's just a mistake on the coach, whether he leaked something he shouldn't have, or what, but it is, like I said, worth monitoring. And then I realized I forgot to mention the question of the day from the other day. I asked, what was your favorite Dallas memory? 83% of you said it was 4th and 1. Had a lot of write-in votes for Donovan's 14-second scramble and then threw the bomb to Freddie Mitchell against the Cowboys on Monday night. So definitely one of those good memories. I had somebody say just the heady play by Brian Westbrook when he was could have scored a touchdown, slid down at the 1 and let the time run out, costing a lot of fantasy managers, including myself, a game that day. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. Today's question: who's going to have a bigger game tomorrow, the offense or the defense? The Cowboys are a mess right now. Excuse me. God, this November cold gets me every year. But who's going to have a better game, the offense or the defense? 267-495-8531. That is the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related? Want to vent about the Sixers? Fair game. Want to throw some strays at the Flyers for some reason? That's all fair game. Want to talk about the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony? All of that is fair game. 267-495-8531. But who's going to have a bigger game tomorrow, the offense or the defense? Let me know your thoughts. All right, today we're going to go back to 1984. And on this day in 1984, the Sixers suffered their first loss of the season, 130-119 up at the old Boston Garden. The most notable thing out of this game, though, was this was the iconic fistfight between Dr. J and Larry Bird. Late in the third quarter, Bird and Dr. J were jawing back and forth. Larry Bird was having himself a game. Dr. J, it appeared that Larry Bird pushed him. Dr. J grabbed his neck, which led Moses Malone to come in and grab Larry Bird from behind. Dr. J threw 3 punches. Both of them were ejected. Moses Malone ended up punching Chris Ford, the assistant coach at the time on the Celtics, in the nose. It was just chaos ensued. It was just a chaotic game, too. You had Billy Cunningham getting thrown out of the game, even though he wasn't necessarily He got teed up, but the ref lost track of the amount of technicals, so he went to the locker room, came back from the locker room. Fans were throwing stuff. The Sixers had to do their huddles out in the middle of the court because the fans were throwing stuff at them. Just a crazy, crazy game, highlighted, I guess, by the iconic fist fight between Larry Bird and Dr. J. Bird at the time had 42 points when he was ejected, which was his career high against the Sixers. Dr. J only had 9 points at the time, which probably led to some of the frustration he was having. But go look at the YouTube video. Both of the guys talk about it. He grabbed his neck, threw 3 punches. Moses was involved. It was just a typical Boston-Philadelphia basketball game in the 80s. That 84-85 team, though, that was Charles Barkley's rookie year. Sixers would go 58-24, lose in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Celtics 4-1 that year. But on this day, Sixers suffered their first loss of the season, 130-119 to the Celtics. But it was all about Larry Bird and Dr. J throwing down on this day in 1984. All right, also on this day in Philly sports history, as you look through the sports page, Dr. J versus Larry Bird was not the only fight on the card that night. Easton's Larry Holmes fought James Bone Crusher Smith. He defeated him by a 12th round TKO when Bone Crusher Smith just had too big of a gash over his eye to come out for the 12th round. He retained the IBF and ring heavyweight titles, moving to 46-0. Had his sights set on beating Rocky Marciano's 49-0 record. Unfortunately, it was just not meant to be. But Easton's own LV in the house, Larry Holmes beat James Bone Crusher Smith by 12th round TKO on this day. Flyers beat the St. Louis Blues 6-0. Pelly Lindbergh saved 29 shots en route to a shutout. Tim Kerr, 2 goals and an assist. And I thought this was interesting. The Eagles were 4-5-1 under Marion Campbell. They were gearing up to play the 10-0 Miami Dolphins down in Miami. And I cannot believe this line is real. The Eagles were 15-point underdogs in that game. Yeah, 15 points is a lot of points. If you want to keep scoring home, the Eagles did lose that game, but they covered the spread, losing 24-23 to Dan Marino and the Dolphins, who moved to 11-0. But that also happened, all of this on the sports page this day in 1984. On this day in 1984, though, Larry Bird versus Dr. J, which was the undercard for the Larry Holmes, James Bone Crusher Smith fight. Sixers lost 130-119, suffering their first loss of the season. Probably one of Dr. J's worst games of his career. Larry Bird might have scored 60 points against the Sixers had he not gotten ejected. We will have more on the Eagles-Cowboys tomorrow, including our 3 keys as well as our prediction. But let me know, who's going to play better tomorrow, the offense or the defense? I think both they have a shot to really lay it on in Dallas tomorrow. So who do you think is going to have a bigger game, the offense or the defense? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. We'll update you on the Flyers-Panthers. If you want to vent about the Sixers, you can. I don't even think at this point it's worth the energy to vent about the Sixers. But, hey, if you want to, go ahead. My Temple Owls won last night, looking good. Adam Fisher has them playing well. Jamal Mashburn, what a get for them in the transfer portal. They have Lynn Greer, 7 more games left on his suspension. So hopefully could have something special brewing down on North Broad Street. They shot very well last night. Yes, it was Monmouth. They beat them by almost 30 points, which they should have, but they look good doing it. So watch out for those Temple Owls this year. They could be making some noise in the American and sneak into the NCAA tournament. And Jamal Mashburn Jr., like I said, that dude is a player. So you heard it here first. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for November 9th, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Saturday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.